When you see the
Yeah,
scene
okay.
switch, okay? All right, here we go.
Okay.
But the senator, while indoctrinated, could not explain his toxicity.
BBS, this just in. An entire battalion of weaponized misogynists will be descending on hapless Chicago to forcefully fondle the city's innocence. With them are notorious fascist pug handler Count Dankula, rape joke enabler Sargon of Akkad, alt-right menace Mr. Reagan, Satan himself Paul Elam, and the devil's handmaid Karen Swan. We have just received word from an expert in hateology that if you even so much as look upon this conference, your eyes will be burned out of your skull, your tongue will invert, and your anus will seethe from the union. We repeat, do not so much as glance at this convention and its related paraphernalia of evil.
Tonight is the big, big night of the big, big fight. Are you ready? Are you guys ready?
Yeah, okay. All right. Yes, I am. I am
All
ready.
right. Okay, so we are here to do battle with Sargon of Akkad, otherwise known as Carl Benjamin. I know, he chose Carl Benjamin as his screen name to make himself sound cooler than Sargon of Akkad. I'm just referencing an error in the media regarding Nick Redding and Eric Duckman. But anyway, we have notorious misogynist, fascist Nazi Carl Benjamin, otherwise known screen name Sargon of Akkad, and I'm here to ask him many questions and essentially just waterboard him and find out exactly why he wants to participate in the International Conference on Men's Issues. So,
Yeah, why do you want to
welcome.
slum with us?
Welcome, Carl.
I want to get waterboarded.
There you go. And first question that I have here is, what is your favorite flavor of milkshake, and does it bring all the boys to the yard?
I would say chocolate, and it certainly brings the soy boys.
Are we talking your favorite like in terms of drinking, or as in wearing?
Well, wearing it's all the same, really, isn't it? But drinking chocolates, definitely.
All right. Okay. So, next question. When did you first become aware that you didn't want to rape Jess Phillips? And do you plan on making similar pledges in regard to public pledges in regard to the other 33,086,003 women and girls in the UK?
You know, I do, but I won't name them individually because it'll just take too long. So it's just a blanket promise at this point. I wouldn't even.
You wouldn't even rape anyone. Okay.
Yes.
I'm feeling really threatened right now. Oh wait, I'm not. I'm not from the UK. Never mind. Okay.
There
so
you
you're
go.
actually outside of the target demographic then. I mean, you know, we actually it's like Schrodinger's.
Should I feel?
No.
Oh,
you shouldn't feel, because the British are very, very snooty and upper crust, right? And they look down on all of the other societies and countries out there. And so,
Obviously.
like, if they wouldn't even rape a British woman, then they really wouldn't even rape you, Allison.
You know, I actually saw a leftist sort of article about that, suggesting that the Israelis were racist because they weren't raping the Palestinian women.
Yeah, the Israeli Defense Force, they couldn't find a single incidence of them raping the Palestinian women. So it was like they're racist, and they see Palestinian women as inferior and subhuman, and therefore that's why they won't rape them. So yeah, no, you're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't. You can't win for losing. Okay, next question.
Probably wildly optimistic as well, because I mean, like, humans interbred with Neanderthals, so you know.
But that might have all been consensual.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, I mean,
Oh,
like you've seen the
we're not
reconstructions
human.
of Neanderthals. Well, that is, yeah, yeah, that humans have sex with things that aren't humans, but B, they're really ugly. So I mean, standards isn't a thing that most humans actually have, really.
Oh dear.
Oh well, that may be true.
all throughout
That might
history, all throughout
that
history,
might
most
be
humans didn't really
true.
have standards.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I do know some people with pretty low standards, so I can't
Right.
really argue with that. Um, okay, so what precisely attracted you to fascistic politics, such as due process of law, the presumption of innocence, freedom of the press, speech and association and assembly, and attending the weddings of known Nazis? What what
You know what?
what first attracted you to that?
There was something about constitutional limited government that just seemed like the most nefarious and evil way to run the world that would inflict the most suffering on the most number of people at once. And I thought, you know what? Sign me up for that.
All right, excellent answer. I'm glad you're actually admitting to your
Unironic fucking
your
Guardian report tomorrow.
yeah. Okay, so are you a dog person or a cat person, or are you one of those complete wackos who goes in for birds?
Um, oh, that's a good question. I'm not sure. How do I quite like all animals, to be honest. Can I say it depends on the animal? Like, if the animal's a nice animal, I like it. If it's not a nice animal, then I don't like it.
All
Goodness,
right,
this is a fence sitter.
I guess we'll allow it.
No. I'm just procedural. I'm not like an animal ethno-speciest type.
I
He
think he
doesn't
was waffling.
he
I'm an
he doesn't
individualist.
see he doesn't see species.
Yes, yes.
Oh,
That's exactly it.
beautiful. Are you aware that Boris Johnson has been filmed standing in a public street
Wow.
offering a tray of tea without wearing an apron? And do you think this disqualifies him from leadership of the Conservative Party?
Oh God, I didn't even consider.
He wasn't wearing an apron, Carl. Did we lose Carl?
Wow. No, he's still
Discord.
here. Oh, is
I think
Discord
he's
being
pondering
weird?
it.
Oh, can
Maybe
you not
he,
hear me?
maybe he's
We can
doing a
hear
bit
you
of
now. Yeah.
research. Yeah, we can hear
Right.
you now.
Yeah, I think it's just lucky that it's the Conservative Party choosing and not the country, because that would be something that got him disqualified.
All right. Okay. And okay, so do you think it's at all polite to send interracial gay porn to individuals on Twitter who oppose miscegenation and homosexuality? I mean, aren't they entitled to their own opinions on these things without facing political incivility from actual fascists like yourself?
No, no, the people who are anti-miscegenation, they can hold their opinion, but I'm very pro gay miscegenation, and it should be made public.
All right. Okay, I just have two more questions and then we can just get into a nice conversation.
Yeah, go on.
Is Dominic Robb more of a misogynist than you are or less?
Obviously. I mean, I haven't been on the BBC saying that feminists are man-hating bigots, because they won't have me on to do it. But that's so technically he's the bigger misogynist at the moment.
All right, okay. And Theresa May, Hillary Clinton, and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Marry, fuck, or kill?
Oh, fucking hell.
We're asking the hard questions here.
Sorry, who was the first one?
Theresa May, Hillary Clinton, and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Why does she have such an atrocious AOC? Marry, fuck, or kill?
No. God, that's so hard. I think just on age alone, it's gonna have to be AOC in the fuck category. Obviously, because she's like the only one under 70. But I don't know.
See,
Theresa May sounds really boring, and at least with Hillary Clinton, she's evil, but at least she's not boring. So at least I'll be able to sit there and go, no, Hillary, just leave whatever country that she's targeting alone. Just come on, just let them live, Hillary, let them live, and at least I'll have something to do with my life. But with Theresa May, I just see us sitting by a fireplace, just genially smiling at each other, like, yeah, kill me, and I'll just probably end my own life. It's just been the most boring thing in the world. So yeah, probably married Hillary Clinton.
For the excitement.
Just
no.
for
Occasional body
see-
disposal.
Whoa! Did you see
Well,
what
yeah.
she did to Bill? Do you see? I would marry
but
Theresa May.
Did you see what Jon Snow did to Daenerys?
Yeah. Okay.
Well, Hillary Clinton she is very she does have a record of domestic violence against Bill, so.
Does she?
Oh yeah.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, no, they even he had to appear at a press conference with like her claw marks down his neck.
Jesus.
And an aide essentially made the excuse that he'd cut himself shaving and nobody bought it.
Yeah, right, okay.
And there was a report of like a White House chambermaid, like a cleaning staff coming into the bedroom one morning and finding the bed completely just like covered in splattered blood.
Well,
Ooh.
I mean, I think that sounds bad, but I'm a feminist, which means that if she comes at me with anything, I get to pop her right back in the face.
No, that's not what being a feminist is.
Oh, equal
Carl?
rights and equal lefts, man. I'm totally down for equality.
No.
That's getting taken out of context.
It means
Would he
means
punch Hillary Clinton in the face? Only if she was scratching at me with her nails.
well,
that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. No.
According to feminists, all domestic violence is patriarchal terrorism, and so you'd be arrested if you even defended yourself. There was a guy I was talking to years ago who his wife was hitting him with a baseball bat, and he blocked her from hitting him with it a third time. And that caused her to injure her wrist. And so he was the one arrested and hauled away.
Well, he should have thought about that, shouldn't he?
He really should have. Yes. Yes. So, I don't know.
To be fair to the cops, though, they probably arrested him because they knew that if he stayed in that situation, he would die. And they also have to deal with these feminist quotas on domestic violence.
Well, this guy said that he actually had a fractured skull and a broken arm, and he was hauled off to jail, and he did not get medical attention for 5 hours, and he almost died.
Okay, then it was asshole cops.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was asshole cops who were trained in the feminist paradigm of domestic violence, which means
I have a similar tale, but it was actually one of my nephews. He was breaking up with a girl, and he had paid for her cell phone. So it was technically his cell phone, and he attempted to get it back from her. So he basically just grabbed it. And in the process of not liking this, the girl kicked him in the testicles. And while he was writhing on the floor in agony, he called the police. And the police came and arrested him. And on the way to taking him to jail, they realized that he might be dying. So they took him to the hospital instead. There's I guess a positive end to this story, because after he was charged and convicted of domestic violence, the judge gave pity on him and said that he could take some anger management courses and it wouldn't affect his permanent record. After having been kicked in the balls so hard that he ended up in hospital and may be infertile.
Yeah, no, it's like it's just freaking crazy the way things are going. So anyway, now that all the joking is aside and all of my ridiculous
all
questions
the levity
are done,
is over.
Yeah, all my like you have seemed to, like, you've always been sort of open, Carl, to men's rights issues and stuff like that. You've never considered yourself a men's rights activist or said that you were, but you've always been open to seeing the male side of things and the sort of the the existence of discrimination against men among other people, right?
Yeah.
And so, you know, I'm just wondering how because you've been around for a while, how your thinking has developed over time. Because I've been watching you for years, and to me, it seems like your thinking has evolved. So,
On the subject of men suffering unnecessary discrimination, I don't think my opinions have really changed all that much in any way. Maybe the detail and the resolution by which I see the problem has increased, but I mean, I'm concerned about unfairness when it comes to
mm,
these things. I think that it's wrong that we have a society that is manifestly unfair, and I think that the way to judge that is by looking at who is the one with the whip hand, who's the cat that's getting the cream, um,
mhm.
who's the one who's happy, walking away happy from the whatever experience it is we've done. And obviously, when a woman can unilaterally take these decisions and effectively make sure a man never sees his children anymore, I think that there's a great deal of unfairness there. Obviously, one side has it all one way and the other side has it none of the other. And I think that's wrong. I think that society shouldn't be run that way. And I think it's really unfair. I think it's unjust.
So, when did you meet Count Dankula? That's one thing that I was kind of curious about, like, how because I know that you attended his wedding, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and so I'm wondering, like, when that friendship started, and I'm like, he seems like just like a really friendly, jovial,
He really
uh,
is.
convivial person, like just
Yeah.
absolutely, yeah, top notch in terms of just being fun to be around. So,
Yeah.
but when did you really get to know him?
Um, I can't remember exactly when we met because I've got a terrible memory.
Mm,
But we've spent loads of time together, because we went out to the European Parliament and we just hang out whenever the opportunity comes, whenever he comes down and the opportunity's there. And so I just got to just got to know him as a lad, and he's just a really decent guy. He's always got a good sense of humor, and he's got like a good sense of fairness. So yeah, it's just been just I don't know. He's just a really cool guy.
oh, there you go. He's also going to be speaking at the International Conference on Men's Issues, August 16th to 18th in Chicago. Buy your tickets at icmi.info.
Yes,
Um, yes, do it. Do it.
do it.
Um,
Hmm.
okay, so did you have like a particular, because we haven't really nailed down the speaker topics yet, 100%. I think
That's
I
right.
think I think everybody who's on the organizational committee has an idea of, what the topics will be for the various speakers. But
Hmm.
what do you plan on presenting? Like, do you have a specific thing that you want to discuss?
I don't know. The the last few months have been very eye opening in many different ways, and I I'm still in the middle of, I guess, well, not in the middle, but like I've spent a lot of time processing what the things I've learned mean, and I don't even know what I think the end result is. I
Well, the last few months, just in case there are people who've been living under a rock, the
yeah.
last few months, Carl's been running for as standing as an MEP candidate for UKIP, and
Member of European
European
Parliament.
Parliament,
Yeah.
and he's been bombarded with all kinds of negative press, and just flat out, um, I would call it lying. It's certainly lying about intentions, lying about things that they can't have. Stating as fact what Carl's intent has been behind
Hmm.
some of the things that he has said. Right.
Well,
That's
that's only
in
because these things are lies. I mean, give
yeah.
them some credit. Like, but the I don't know. The thing is, like, I'm just becoming aware of. I don't know. I guess we call them groups in society who don't like I don't know. They are essentially going to become unmalleable. And I'm not even I'm talking ideologically, philosophically. These groups, right? These are groups that will never um, change their mind on things. And I don't.
Oh, you're talking about polarization
Yes,
and an
but
inability to meet in the middle and to
yeah. It's a
consider the other
complete.
side.
Yeah, it's a complete inability to compromise or care about the other person's issues, and that really concerns me because effectively it means that a majority of people would have to be affected by the issues that you guys often talk about, in order for them to, for there to be any kind of movement or traction on any of these things. But for things to get that bad, that means things would have to be unbelievably awful.
Yeah.
Like it would be unbearably awful, and you really don't want anything to get to that level, obviously. You know, how terrible would that be? And so it's one of those things where but the thing is, the problems are getting worse. You know, I don't think they are
Mm-hmm.
going to get any better. And so I'm getting quite negative if I start thinking about the future. And so I guess I haven't.
Oh yeah, no, God, like I every once in a while I project my predictions a little too far into the future, so I sort
Yeah,
of, I
yeah,
look at the big picture and I
yeah.
extrapolate a little
Given
too far.
current trends, then
Yeah, a little
yeah,
too far forward and then I go on a
yeah,
3-day crying jag, right? And I'm like, "Oh God, my poor
we're
children."
fucked. Yeah, I know,
Yeah.
I know.
Like I'm probably going to be okay, but they're fucked.
Yeah,
Yeah, but so I mean like when like I think honestly that we did introduce a second sort of I've called it in the past men's rights adjacent stream of content, right? Or men's
yes,
issues adjacent, right?
yeah,
So, freedom of speech and, political polarization and all of those things, right? But um all of those things, and that's actually what we would love you to to really concentrate on, is how those things that you've experienced, right, have how they impact everyone, including people who are focused on men's issues. But did you hear about Joe Biden and his latest big thing? What has caused
what,
the
curing cancer?
no, curing cancer, that's old news.
Oh,
um
sorry, what was the latest one?
Oh, curing cancer is like benevolent, even if it's an empty promise. But
Oh, yeah,
what
yeah.
what he said was, he said that back in the 70s, because he's been around for fucking
Oh, yeah, I
ever,
remember. Yeah, yeah,
right? Back in the
yeah.
70s, he was able to really work with people who he really disagreed with on almost everything, right? But he was able to find, he's the guy who's able to find common ground, who's able to even work with segregationists and get something done, even though he disagrees with them on everything,
Mm-hmm.
right? That they stand for. And, Kamala Harris said that he was coddling the reputations of segregationists. And Cory Booker essentially said that, he was, anyone who would work with a segregationist is, like it's like these people have no idea of what the political reality was back in the 1970s,
Yeah.
right? That there were still people in government who held these views, and you had to convince them to your side, and in order to do that you had to talk to them and you had to find common ground. And so Biden's putting this out as like, here's why you should vote for me. And I would agree with that. Here's
Yeah.
why I would vote for Biden, is because he's willing to reach out across the aisle, even when he absolutely disagrees with the person that he's sort of forced by the situation to work with,
Mm-hmm.
right? But everybody's criticizing him and dumping on him because he's not pure enough. He's not
I think that's why
ideologically
Biden's
pure.
going to win. Biden will smash the other candidates. I think, if the polling is anything to go by, anyway. The boomers, the sort of normie boomer types, they look at Biden and they see like wholesomeness, which is ironic given what the internet sees. Um, I like people like Kamala Harris and Cory Booker and that, like these like wild-eyed radicals to the
Mhm.
average sort of like 70-year-old old dear who's always voted Democrat or something, like I think that they don't realize how toxic they make the Democratic Party. Which is, honestly the same as the free speech guys with UKIP, to be honest, to the normal boomy types. And I think in the next one that'll matter. I think that will matter. But hopefully Trump's achievements, and he does have achievements, he's done a surprisingly decent job, in my opinion, will actually show for what they are. The economy's doing really well. The US does seem to be back in the saddle, frankly, from the international perspective. Everything's going pretty great. He's got Mexico patrolling the border,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
else tariffs. It's like this: build a wall. No, Mexico will become the wall.
Yeah, no,
he's
and
doing great.
Yeah, no, and then one of the first orders of business he did when he got into office, after he appointed Betsy DeVos as Secretary of Education, he essentially authorized her to claw back all of that Title IX sexual misconduct overreach in universities, and essentially disband the kangaroo courts and reinstate due process. So, I mean, like so many of the First Step Act.
Oh, I'm not familiar with that one.
I think that's what it's called, the First Step Act. It's the for nonviolent crimes. You're gonna get out of prison early, or you're not going to be imprisoned at all, right? Like it's like it essentially is dealing with the high rates of incarceration in the U.S. that disproportionately affect minority communities, right? And vastly disproportionately affect men just in general. And he's essentially said, well, if it's a nonviolent offense, right? Like we really don't need to bring down like Thor's hammer of justice on you. Like there are other ways that we can deal with nonviolent, petty crimes and stuff like that than incarcerating somebody and putting them in with, gang members and murderers and rapists and all of that stuff, right? So, and that was the one thing. That was the one thing that the Democrats were willing to actually support. How
could they say no?
How could they say no and show their faces in public? Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. This is the thing. He's been a very cunning strategist, and like I said, he seems to be getting stuff done. So I'm actually really happy with it. I mean, the alt-right aren't happy because he hasn't been as Nazi as they want, but like, too bad.
I don't think he is a Nazi.
No, I don't think he is at all.
The definition of a Nazi would be, hand over your guns. We'll do a mandatory buyback.
Yeah, he'd be trying to penalize the black community. Black people are doing very well under Trump, all things considered. So, compared to where they've been, previously in the past, 10 years, they're doing better than before. So it's just one of those things where it's like, it's just the presentation. Like I saw the there was a news interview I did today. I was watching a David Pakman video about it because he was whining. And the only thing I could notice was that, oh my God, Trump actually is starting to look like an Oompa Loompa at this point. Like he actually has like orange skin and like white eyes.
Like, his white eyelids from the tanning, the goggles. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like he actually does look quite strange in that regard. But otherwise, I don't know. I think he's done a great job, and I love what he did with Iran as well.
Yeah, no, that idea that an unmanned drone was shot down, we're minutes from doing an airstrike that will kill 150 people. Well, that's disproportionate. Yeah,
the way he phrased it was great. So I was watching him being interviewed in front of a helicopter. This is obviously going somewhere as quickly talking to the press, and it just looked quite natural the way he was just saying, I just thought it was disproportionate. It didn't seem worth it. It didn't seem right. And it's like, well, there we go. You can't say he doesn't have a moral compass. He's actually done something that I don't think Hillary Clinton would have done that. We saw he died, ha ha ha.
Yeah,
and then
Donald
Trump going, well, it's just 150 dudes in Iran that I don't know and don't give a shit about, but I don't really want to kill them over a drone. It's it's kind of genial. You know, it's kind of gentle. It's like, wow, okay. Didn't
Yeah,
think that
no,
he was
but
like that.
at the same time, you have him saying, okay, like we're going to do sanctions. We're going to pull out of this deal that gives Iran money, right? We're going to pull out of it. We're going to apply sanctions, economic sanctions. And then Europe is like desperately trying to undermine that by, coming up with a way for them to exchange money with Iran, that Trump can't prohibit, right? That the U.S. can't interfere with, right?
Yeah.
So they're like, yeah, no, we're not gonna cooperate with the, the gentle, I guess the loving strokes of the axe, the trade sanctions,
the sort of soft power of it.
Yeah, pressure. We're not going to cooperate with that. But we're going to criticize him for not bombing the shit out of them. It's
mental,
so
isn't it?
freaking weird.
It's so backwards to me. It's just like, no, look, the stuff that isn't fatal, go wild if you want. You know, as diplomatic weapons, these are pretty effective and allows the US to actually throw its weight around on the world stage and actually do some good things. But when it comes to actual confrontation and loss of life, you know, Trump's actually on the right side of it, which frankly is shocking. You know, you'd think he'd be on the wrong side given everything you hear about him. But no, he's actually on the right side.
Agreed. I'm just blown away by, how a bunch of Democrat, well, CNN, right? CNN and MSNBC are criticizing him for, doing the wrong thing by not bombing Iran. And it's like, I think he's been closely watching politics, for the last maybe 3 decades, and seeing what happens. It's just like Tulsi Gabbard. She lived it for 2 tours of duty.
Oh, yeah.
The cost of trying to change a regime by force, by external imperialistic force. And she's just like, and what do we get out of it? We get a more extreme regime, taking over once we leave, or we just never get to pull out.
Yeah,
right?
and Tulsi's been great as well, isn't she? It's a shame she's not got any traction, but
Oh, she's too sensible.
she is way too sensible.
So yeah, no, I tell that all the time. Like I'm just like Cory Booker. Yeah, no, he's not gonna like. And you have to look at these candidates in the Democratic. Sleepy Joe. That's whatever. That's part of his charm, is being that kind of laid back, sleepy, great uncle that you knew, who would sit on the porch and sip mint juleps or whatever, right? But but with yeah, but with all of the others, Pocahontas, and I'm guessing he'll start, if Cory Booker ever like gets any kind of traction, he'll start just calling him Spartacus. Because of that really, really ridiculous statement that Cory Booker made. This is my Spartacus moment. Like it's just like there are so many labels that he could slap on people who are running, and I don't know that there's any label that would actually stick to Tulsi Gabbard. I mean, like I joked to one radio show host, what the unimpeachable Tulsi Gabbard? What like is that the label? Because I can't see any other label really sticking to her. So
if anything, he'd probably do her a service by. Well, one of Trump's strengths is acknowledging the strengths of others, and people don't realize how much of a strength that is. And so he would inevitably say something like, "She did a service for our country. She served. She was very good, But I think she, but it would bolster her. So if anything, she should join the Republicans at this point."
Well, I think her position on the universal basic income is it's, well, I mean, okay,
it's probably in line with the Democratic Party orthodoxy.
Yeah, well, but I mean, like Milton Friedman did do a breakdown of an idea that he had for a negative taxation, which I can't remember the details, but it actually kind of made sense, even from a libertarian perspective. But
Milton Friedman
on how
is
to.
Milton Friedman is one of those radical Nazi types that was in that article. We should avoid him, and we should avoid Stefan Molyneux like 3 times over because he was in there 3 times.
Oh yeah, no, renounced, disavowed, times 3.
Times 33.
That article was amazing, though, wasn't it?
We were in there. We were in there. We were, yeah. Like, it's like a really old video about Anita Sarkeesian we did back in 2015 or 14 or something. And I was like, oh, we made it, fam. We're in the article. Yeah, it's like on the timeline. You scroll down and there's like a thumbnail for a Honey Badger Radio stream. This was like way back. Like, yeah.
It was probably, they put it in because it was we were one of the first people who were saying, Anita is going to start taking over the games industry and determining what is acceptable and unacceptable content. And that was like in 2013. So they might have tried to find the earliest thing and this plopped it in. So who knows?
Yeah,
it was after I started. It was after I started doing the shows, but before we got we got all fancy with OBS. We were still using like Google Hangouts to do stuff. But like, yeah, 2014ish. Anyway, I'm sorry. Like, I'm butting into your conversation. But while I'm in here though, I thought I would say that Karen, you got a whole bunch of super chats. Do you want to like do those now or at the end, or do you not want to do them at all?
Can we do those now? Because I've actually got to be up fairly early tomorrow. Because I'm going.
Okay.
Wait. Before we get into the super chats, can I do a shill? Can I mention some stuff? Oh shit! I used the shill word.
Oh, you know you wanted to do the shill word.
Channel the shill.
All right. Okay. So if you guys are interested in seeing Sargon live at the International Conference on Men's Issues, please go to ICMI.info. You can find more information about the conference. You can also find the links to the tickets. And as of today, there is a public timetable that you can go and look at and find out who's speaking when. And we also have tickets for the individual days. So you can purchase a ticket for Saturday, Friday. You don't have to do it out of order like I did. So you can purchase a ticket for Friday, Saturday, or Sunday separately, and make an informed choice about which speaker you want to see on those days. So that's icmi.info, and put up the schedule there, Brian, if you can do that.
Yeah, I did.
I put a lot of work into that schedule.
It's up.
Oh, great! All right, awesome. So we have Sargon. Scroll down a little bit. We have Sargon coming in as a panelist on an incel, an MRA, and a pickup artist walk into a bar. And then scroll up a bit, Brian. And then also Covington Boys. Actually, you're on Covington Boys, dissecting media sneer tactics, and also Get Woke, Get Broke, Go Broke. So those are the panels we have you on, and on Sunday you are doing the keynote speech. So we're going to end the conference with a bang, as it were.
Christ, I'll have to make sure I've got good.
That sounds rapey. No. That sounds rapey as fuck, Allison.
Yeah, we should label
as we all know, that's something that he wouldn't do. So it's not going to end with a bang. It wouldn't even end with a bang.
Yeah, that's what the title should be. I wouldn't even keynote speak.
Well, no, it doesn't have to be non-consensual, Brian. There have been lots of bangs that have been completely consensual.
Exactly.
So, thank you.
Yeah, that's true. I guess it just I don't feel like getting banged, so I'm gonna say it's rape for me. But I'm a man, I can't be raped. So then I guess it's I mean that it can only be maybe sexual assault at worst.
At least in the UK. So anyway, if you're interested in that, take a look at icmi.info. And we got a great group of speakers. Mr. Reagan. Did I say that right, Karen?
Mr. Reagan.
Like Mr. the president.
Reagan. Yeah, Mr. Reagan, Tommy Sotomayor.
Count Dankula.
And Paul Elam. And Janice Fimengo. And Diana Davidson. And who else is really
Davison. Davison.
Yeah. So lots of great speakers, and also events, social events. We're going to be doing game night. We'll be doing a screening of the Red Pill, and most of the cast, or a significant portion of the cast of the Red Pill, will be there, and we'll do a panel on that. All right, I think I'm done. I'm good.
Okay, Brian, I can't make heads or tails of freaking YouTube's beta. Let me.
What do you want? You want me to do it? I can read the super chats.
Yeah, if you would, because
No,
I can't.
I don't mind.
Frickin',
Yeah, you know what?
Jesus.
If you get into the YouTube Studio beta and you hate it like I do, just go to the bottom left corner and there's like a little man escaping. Click that to go to Classic so you can like navigate it. However, I'll do that. So Xeranx gives us $5 and says, such low energy after Karen's attempt at hyping her own stream. Let's hope this helps. Gives us $5. Joey Jojo gives us $5 and says, this feels kind of nostalgic, giving some cash to say thanks for helping Man and myself. I'm glad you guys are still around. Once a badger, always a badger. Lou Duva gives us £5 and says, thanks for your work over the years, Karen. Much appreciated. Troy Davidson gives us $5 and says, Karen, you just made enemies for life. There are dozens of us bird people. Dozens of us, he says.
Oh, no. Tell me it's not so. Dozens?
Yeah.
Dozens of bird people.
My wife is a bird person, but...
Oh, God, Brian.
But she's fallen...
My parents are bird people, man.
Oh.
Literally a harpy. But she does love our dog, so she's pretty... A dog person is a close second. I'm not really sure which one comes first, but anyway. Blake Foster gives us $5 and says, if you could implement one policy/law to aid the men's rights movement and equality under the law, what would it be? All answer, please, and thanks.
The Equal Rights Amendment.
The Equal Rights Amendment.
That's a good one. That is a good one. And it would be fantastic the amount of shrieking and protests we'd get from feminists as we implement the Equal Rights Amendment.
Without the Hayden Rider.
Yeah, no Hayden Rider, friendos.
Could you expand on that?
Yeah.
Okay. So the Equal Rights Amendment was something that hardcore second wave feminists were actually fighting for back in the it was something that was brought up, in the 1920s or 30s or something like that. But it was second wave feminists, and most notably the National Organization for Women, that were fighting to pass the Equal Rights Amendment, which would amend the Constitution to prohibit discrimination based on sex, right? And then Phyllis Schlafly, who was a sort of a hardcore traditionalist, and the Equal Rights Amendment had pretty much had support from a supermajority of states. So what was needed to pass this, to amend the Constitution? Then Phyllis Schlafly started telling people, you guys realize that this amendment wouldn't get women anything they don't already have and would actually remove several exemptions and protections that they enjoy under the law. And then a bunch of states backed out. And then this guy, Hayden, I forget whether he was a senator or whatever, but he attached an addendum onto the ERA, the bill, the proposed law, which was just essentially, there shall be no discrimination under the law based on sex. That's really what it was. It was just like a one-sentence amendment to the Constitution. It attached a rider onto it that said, this would not prohibit special protections and benefits that exist now for women or may in the future exist for women. So he wanted to grandfather in all of the benevolent sexism against, so he wanted to grandfather in affirmative action. He wanted to grandfather in all of the exemption from the draft and all of this stuff, right, for women. And to their credit, the National Organization for Women said no, that they did not want the Equal Rights Amendment on those terms. But the majority of the states in the country said that they weren't willing to, that we're still arguing about whether women should be required to sign up for selective service in the United States. So, and that would, if the Equal Rights Amendment had passed, that would just be a no-brainer. It would be illegal to force men to sign up and women not. So
yeah, so essentially women could have any kind of special provision, special rights, women only, women only anything, and men would have no ability to complain about it.
Yeah, if it had passed with the Hayden Rider. So I mean, like,
Yeah.
this is one of the things that I'm willing to actually give credit to the National Organization for Women for opposing the Hayden Rider. They essentially abandoned the Equal Rights Amendment when that rider was attached to it. So I would essentially say that, you know, the Equal Rights Amendment would secure a lot of this shit. It would make it illegal constitutionally, not because of UNRWA or some other state equality legislation, but the foundational document of the United States, the U.S. Constitution. It would make it illegal to give women any kind of privilege or exemption that you did not also give men, or right? So,
But isn't it interesting that they had to completely restructure the concept of citizenship in order to create a completely new form of citizenship just for women, so that they could get the benefits but not
the duties.
the duties of citizenship.
We said duty.
I just find that fascinating. It's almost like society never really wanted to hurt women or harm them or oppress them in the first place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess the guy who put this super chat in there wanted everybody to answer. So I guess Sargon, what do you think?
Sorry, what was the question exactly?
If you could implement one policy or law to aid the men's rights movement, it doesn't have to aid the MRM. I mean, basically, it could be one that's in support of men's issues and equality under the law. What would it be? All answer, please, and thanks.
Well, speaking specifically for my country, the problem I think that faces most regular men in like the regular daily lives when it comes to family problems are the courts. And it's not even necessarily the laws on the books. The laws on the books could be interpreted to be relatively fair. The problem is we have really patriarchal judges who act as if women are the perpetual victims of society, especially if a woman just starts crying in the court. One judge even said recently, if you were a man, he had a euphemism for the word, like sending you down the steps or something, which is a euphemism for I would send you to jail. If you were a man, I would send you to jail. And I can't think of a more crystal clear, glaring example of sexist double standards in the legal system. But it's not the fact that a woman couldn't be given jail time for that crime. She could. It's just that he chose not to because she was a woman. And so it's not
Sargon,
the laws.
can I just get in here for a second?
Yeah, sure.
I'm getting like multiple messages that your audio is really clippy, including one from your secretary of Akkad. So could you just drop and come back in really quick, and maybe that'll fix it? Sorry about that. And in the meantime, while we're waiting for Sargon to,
I think I'm back now.
Okay,
can you hear me?
Still clip. Yeah, it's still clippy.
Still clippy, right? Okay,
I wonder why.
Well, I don't think, like, we're pretty much near the end here. Sargon's got to go to bed sometime.
Yeah, well, I don't mind answering the question while he's dealing with that.
Sure.
I would like this. I would like to have a policy that all research into gender and gender issues is subject to the same kind of scientific rigor as any other science. So that would be good. You cannot assert any theory about gender without having gone through the process, the same kind of process that you have to do when you assert anything about any other aspect of science. I mean, bearing in mind that sociology tends to be a softer science than physics and mathematics. But yeah, I would like to bring, I think so. I'd like to bring scientific rigor to the conversation around gender, the scientific conversation around sex, I would like to say, rather than gender and sex roles. That's what I would do.
Okay, so we've got all three of our getting rid of court bias, the ERA, scientific rigor. Brian, do you have anything in particular that you would put forward?
One thing that's asking a lot, but I think that for a start, we need to we need to get very precise and specific with the way that we define the letter of the law so that it does protect men, because some things don't. Rape is one of those things. Still, right?
Yeah.
They up until 2013, it was defined, at least in the United States, it was defined as something that a man does to a woman, period. And then they've
so hang on, Brian, hang on. So you want to make it legal to rape men?
Yes, that they didn't. Well, if that's
I know, right?
I know. How do you frame it exactly? But it was it wasn't rape to rape a man, and then they expanded the definition, fortunately, to include other kinds of any kind of penetration, which means that now men can be victims. However, only men can be perpetrators. So they haven't actually expanded the definition of rape to include when women rape men. It's only when men rape men or when men rape women, right? So, I mean, and I think if there's a problem there, there's a problem in other places as well. I mean, bodily integrity obviously is a big one too. But I think for me though, that's something that I stick to, and I think that this whole discussion about law, policy, political philosophy, free speech, etc. It's all very, 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 very dependent on the definitions of words, and I think that our vocabulary, our language, has been completely fucked, and it's nearly impossible to discuss these things because the definitions of words have been screwed so bad that I had a debate with a guy a couple weeks ago on Honey Badger Radio, and it was like we were talking different languages to each other, even though we were both speaking English.
Oh God!
And it was the worst.
I'm not saying his name.
I know. It doesn't matter. But the point is, that's how bad it's gotten. I've noticed that I've seen you go in public and talk to people, and they're so upset at what you're saying, even though what you're saying is completely reasonable. And I think it's because, again, the way that we communicate with each other has been screwed up. And I think that it came from the left, but that's me. That's a whole other. I don't think the alt-right is right wing. I think that's an example. That's my opinion. And I think that the more people misuse words because they think that they're using them correctly, the worse this gets. And I think that men's issues are actually they are the linchpin, the keystone to everything. I honestly believe that. And I've thought a lot about this, but that's my opinion.
Okay.
I got more super chats, but if you wanted to
okay, actually, no, go for the super chats.
All right, let me just finish them because these aren't going to be big questions from what I can tell. All right, Neat Scholar gives us $10 and says, Canadian, so like $7. Neat
Scholar, oh my God, 6.5.
Sargon, I know you never planned to win, but part of me was secretly hoping to see you, Dank, and Tommy flinging paper airplanes at each other during discussions over some worthless law.
Well, that would have been hilarious.
Yeah. One Piece Big Fan gives us $100 Canadian. Thank you, One Piece, for that $75. Love your content.
Oh my God, Brian.
I'm just messing with you. I fuck with the Canadians. But to be honest, though, when people give pounds, they're giving more than American, because our American dollar is not that strong, unless the pound is shrinking. I don't know. I think it's still pretty good, though.
It's not that strong.
It's not that strong. Love your content. Can't contribute often, but I love your work. Thank you, One Piece Big Fan. Dave at Google, gives us 20 pounds and says, I owe Karen a lot more than 20 pounds. Thank you, Dave at Google. Adrian A gives us $1. No comment. Thank you, Adrian. Pi Oh My gives us $5 and says, excited to see you at the International Conference for Men's Issues from one of the Discord boys. Thank you. And Troy Davidson gives us $5 and says, Karen, apologize or my horde of Blue Jays will crap on your car. I feed them peanuts. Their poops are nasty. And that's all the super chats.
Okay, so they can join the club. They can join the club of... I don't just have birds shitting on my cars, right? My cars are parked underneath 2 elm trees that their branches sort of spread over my driveway, my parking pad. And so it's like my car is like completely sticky with sap all not winter. Whenever there's leaves on the tree, they're dropping sap, little drips of sap. And yeah,
I want to And as fascinating as Karen's bird crap and sap is, I actually wanted to buttress Brian's point about the linchpin being men's issues. Men are sort of like the duct tape of society. Whenever society has a problem, it just takes out the duct tape and just starts taping over it and never really addressing that problem. And then it uses more and more and more men. It shows more and more men in its problems and without actually addressing them until some point where those problems become so inescapable that everything falls to crap. And the habit of using men to paper over your paper over your problems is sort of like the habit of using alcohol. At some point, if you want to actually get better, you have to stop using men and start facing your problems. And our society is deep, deep, deep into I don't know, several generations of just using men to paper over its problems. And until we stop, we're never going to face them. And eventually, they will be our downfall. So that's
Well,
my
I mean,
buttressing point.
especially if we're like storing our duct tape in, you know, in a puddle of mud or whatever, right? Like, so where it's not being preserved. It's not being.
No, see, we're basically like we're tearing our duct tape apart because it's patriarchal oppression. You know.
Yeah. So I mean, like it's like I'm just looking at it and I'm going like, who's going to actually be left? It's like the Afghani women who berated the American government for only giving aid to women and girls in Afghanistan. And this was years ago, right? That I read this criticism, and they were saying, like, what exactly are you looking to do here, right? Do you want Afghan women and girls to be to rebuild this society on our own because all our men have sickened and died? Like, is that really how you want things to happen in Afghanistan, right? And I think, you know, because of the greater greater in the greater investment that men put in things that nobody really wants to do, right? So, you know, keeping the lights on, keeping the water running, keeping the planes from falling out of the sky, keeping the sewers going, all of that stuff, right? Because those jobs are mostly men, we neglect men at our peril, and we berate them at our peril, because why would they want to do those unpleasant jobs for our benefit if all we do is shit on them?
Yeah,
Right?
it basically what our society is doing is we live in a log cabin and we keep chopping up the walls to feed our fire. Well, eventually that's not gonna. It's not a winning strategy long term. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. So, but anyway, Carl probably has to go to bed because it's after midnight where you are, isn't it?
Yeah, I do. I've got a couple of things I have to do before I go to bed as well.
Yeah.
So,
and
thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, thank you for coming. And I have to get dinner on because it is 5:30 where I am. And thank you everybody for the super chats. I appreciate that. And I'm not going to let Allison argue about why they should go to
Well,
the
I'm not going to
conference.
ask.
Excellent. Oh, that's beautiful.
That would just be so chintzy. I think is that the right word?
Mean, niggardly.
Niggardly.
Now this stream's going to be completely demonetized.
Yeah, that's going to go out of context there.
That's racist.
Yeah.
Did you have any? Did you have any final words, Sargon or Carol?
No. I'll see you at the ICMI.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be fun.
That's right.
It is.
Right.
That's right. That's right.
I'm looking forward to it. So
it's a great
see you guys
venue.
later.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll buy you some drinks at Hooters.
Thank you.
Yes, Hooters,
Right.
Sunday night.
All right.
Perfect. Okay. So I'm going to go. Thanks, guys, for coming, and we'll talk to you later.
Thank you all.